we're going to talk about why finance and HR can't seem to agree on headcount. And so there's a blog post. You can find that above or below, wherever the link is. And, from my experience, I've seen this, a number of times, not just places where I've been, but places where colleagues have been, that the effort to get finance and HR aligned is really key. And it really can be an obstacle to people analytics getting the traction they need. So, and I think this comes down to a couple of key areas. And I would say that one is definition of what is going to be counted, which statuses are going to count. If someone's on leave of absence, they count yes or no interns. So there's a bunch of different things around the definition of what is a headcount, and including things like, are we going to use the FTE value, or are we going to use a head count or nose count, employee count, whatever you want to call it. So there's a bunch of definitional stuff. And then, in speaking with Phil about some of the things he's seen, the organization hierarchy versus cost hierarchy is something that at one model we have, we bring both in for our customers, and we're able to navigate that pretty well. So it has a bit of a boost for them to be able to look at the data through the lens of one model tool. And I'll just use, I don't know how I ended up here, dialectical thinking, which is the ability to have two things that are both true at the same time. So the cost hierarchy and our organizational hierarchy are actually both true. They just have different purposes. So in order to kind of explore this a little further, I think Phil's got some stuff he can show us. I'm going to turn over to him, and we're going to have a little bit of a dialogue about this. And again, there's a blog post that you can go to and read a little bit more of those thoughts, and of course, share your comments.
That sounds great. And yeah, Nick, I'll just share a quick example in one model. So of that kind of thinking about how both can be true at the same time. I have a very simple storyboard up here, and it is showing me headcount by my supervisory org. So in the blog, you talk about the HR view of the world, and that's exactly what we've got right here. But what I want to show you is how easy it then is to convert that over to a cost center view, and how they can both be true at the same time. So we're going to do that really quick. Add your color commentary as we go, but I'm going to take this view here, and I'm going to explore it, which will open it up for me to make some changes to it. And so I'm looking at that supervisory org. There's a single bar at the bottom because it's at the top level. We can drill down later. But all I'm going to do is I have my metric defined, I have my time period defined, and then I have the dimension right here. In one model, we have already done the work of organizing the data so that we have it at a granular per day level. And those employee records and headcount records and FTE records, they all hook on to all the appropriate dimensions and points in time. So now all I have to do, if someone said, I need to see this by cost center instead, is I'll just switch from supervisory org to cost center, pull that back down here and rerun it. And now I have it by cost center, still at the top level. But what I'm going to do is pin this up to that storyboard that we were just on. I think I called it, something like...
It's down, HR to finance conversion example, a little bit further down.
Oh yeah, there we go, at the bottom. All right. And so we'll say this is now headcount by cost center. We'll pin that over there. And I'm just going to jump back so we can see those two things side by side. So let's rearrange them side by side here. There we go. Save that view. Now we have both side by side. They're both true at the same time. 38,278 people. This is just nose count from your blog post, as you called it, Nick. And then on the cost center side, 38,278. When I start to open them up, they can be different at the detail level. There's a different mapping there. The left side is showing me who people report to. The right side showing me who's paying for who, I think was the language you were using.
Right,
but
right.
There you have it.
Yeah, and the one on the left, so the supervisory org, you've got, it looks like people's last names and maybe their org number or something in there. And then
it's like a supervisory org, for example, something like that.
Yeah, right. And I think in the blog, what I emphasize is that these are, as you showed, they're both whatever 32,878 or something. They're both right at the same time. I think the applicability of the cost center one is for budgeting and accounting and costing and things like that. And basically every other human capital use case would benefit from the supervisory org. That's how the work is organized. That's who reports to whom, who's evaluating the performance for these people, and so on. So I think that there is a place for the cost center, and workforce planning is certainly a place where these things cross back and forth, because workforce planning has some budgetary implications. But yeah, so this allows you to see them side by side. I suppose if we were to go further in a different post or something, we could say, well, what if, the different definitions of headcount,
Sure.
or like to switch this to FTEs is also doable, right? Pretty simple.
Absolutely. Yeah. And what this reminds me of, and it's great because it's a finance topic, because it reminds me of someone named Steve Schaefer, who I worked with at Jobs2Web. He was the CFO there at the time. And he was one of those people that had that just uncanny sense of data. And what he would do in meetings all the time is make sure that we could get down to the granular level of the data and then roll it up however we wanted. And he just grasped that. But what I love about this view is it shows you how investing in the underlying data model pays you dividends. Getting the data right at that foundational level allows you to do things like, in a minute, we converted everything over to a cost center view. It's not a big deal.
Right.
And we talk about data orchestration all the time here, but this is a nice practical example of like how that bears fruit, so to speak.
Yeah, I think in the blog talk about, or I mentioned something about how facilitating these conversations with finance is going to be key. You cannot be a successful people analytics team if you don't have a good partnership with finance and agreed upon definitions and things like that. Otherwise, your numbers and finance numbers are going to end up on the same person's desk. And sorry to say, finance is typically going to win. They've been
You're going to lose the collision, I think was the word you used. That's great.
They've been providing data for a longer period of time, and therefore they will win. Now, in that development of that partnership, I think, as you said, having a data model that's clear and can show these two truths side by side and help to bridge that, and then help the conversations around when should we use one versus the other. I think having the data in here in one model gives you really a leg up in that conversation, because I've had those conversations and I've used Excel sheets and stuff like that, and it's generally just a big giant pain. You can navigate through this whole thing a lot easier. So my point to all of you out there, if you're starting your people analytics team, you will need to cross this bridge. If you haven't already, start planning for it, because it will be a limiter for your success. And if you've already done this and you've been successful, add a comment, because I'm pretty sure you'll agree that it was time well spent. So, hey, Phil, thanks for putting this stuff together. It's simple and powerful at the same time, just as you tend to present things in a really clear way.
Thank you very much. Good talking to you, Nick.
All right, everyone, read the blog. The link is, I think it's up there. I can't remember if it's up there or not. It's somewhere. Yeah. All right. Take care, everybody. Cheers.